What if I told you that the most feared army in the world during the early years of World War II was not just running on fear and discipline, but was actually high on drugs the entire time? We are talking about millions of pills handed out like candy, a leader getting injected with a cocktail so intense his own doctors were scared of him, and a secret substance found in a crashed enemy plane that changed how an entire air force operated. Stick around, because later in this video I am going to tell you about the bizarre chocolate that pilots ate before deadly bombing raids and the strange twist of what happened to all these soldiers after the war ended. This is Trivia Tide, and today we are diving into one of the strangest and most overlooked stories of World War II. How did soldiers, pilots, and even world leaders actually get high during the war? And why was it not just tolerated but encouraged by military command? Most people have never heard of Pervitin, but this small pill might be one of the reasons Germany was able to launch its shockingly fast invasion of France in 1940. Pervitin was essentially crystal meth in tablet form, developed by the German pharmaceutical company Temmler, and marketed at first as a harmless energy booster for tired workers and students. Here is the part that rarely gets mentioned. Before the war, Pervitin was sold over the counter in Germany like a vitamin supplement. Office workers used it to stay sharp, and it was even given to housewives to help them push through chores. It was not some secret military weapon at first. It was a normal part of everyday German life. When the war started, German commanders quietly began pushing these tablets to soldiers to keep them awake for days at a time. The British War Office later estimated that around 35 million Pervitin tablets were distributed to roughly 3 million German soldiers, sailors, and pilots in just 3 months during the spring of 1940. That means troops were essentially able to march, drive tanks, and fight for days without sleep because they were chemically wired to stay conscious. Now here is where things get genuinely bizarre. Adolf Hitler had a personal physician named Theodor Morell who injected him daily with a rotating mix of substances that included Pervitin, cocaine, and a powerful opioid called Eucadol, which was based on oxycodone. This was not a one-time thing. This was Hitler's actual daily medical routine for years. The combination of stimulants and opioids created what doctors call a speedball effect, swinging Hitler's mood wildly from euphoric highs to crushing depressive lows. Some historians who study his medical records believe this drug regimen may explain some of his increasingly erratic decision-making in the later years of the war, though this remains debated among researchers. This is the detail I promised you earlier, and it is one of the coolest little-known facts from this whole story. When British intelligence recovered a downed German fighter plane, they found Pervitin tablets inside it. Instead of ignoring this discovery, they reverse-engineered the concept and decided the Royal Air Force needed something similar. By 1941, the RAF officially approved a drug called Benzedrine, an amphetamine, for use by pilots in both tablet and inhalant form. Royal Air Force pilots were given around 10 milligrams a day during long missions, while ground troops in places like Egypt were sometimes given double that amount. It was not just the Germans and British. General Dwight Eisenhower himself ordered 500,000 Benzedrine tablets for American troops heading into North Africa in 1942. American GIs were also known to use cocaine to push through exhausting stretches of combat, alongside Benzedrine to stay alert on watch duty or during long bombing runs. Estimates suggest the U.S. military distributed somewhere between 200 and 250 million amphetamine tablets across every branch of service during the war, a number that almost nobody talks about today. This means American forces were arguably just as chemically dependent on stimulants as their German counterparts, but this part of the story gets far less attention in mainstream history content. Stimulants were not the only substances flowing through the war. Morphine was used constantly by medics on the battlefield to manage the horrific pain of wounded soldiers, and it was carried in small syringes that troops could self-administer if a medic was not nearby. The problem was that many soldiers who were repeatedly wounded or exposed to trauma developed dependencies on morphine that followed them long after they left the battlefield. Alcohol was also heavily used, not just recreationally, but as an officially rationed substance meant to calm nerves and boost morale before dangerous missions. Many air forces even issued rum or whiskey rations, specifically timed before or after bombing runs to help crews cope with the psychological toll. Now, here is the twist I teased at the start. When the war ended, none of these substances just disappeared along with the fighting. Thousands of soldiers who had been using amphetamines and morphine for years returned home already dependent on them, and post-war medical systems were largely unprepared to treat this kind of addiction. Some historians argue this created one of the first large-scale hidden drug crises tied directly to modern warfare, decades before anyone used the term veteran addiction crisis. Interestingly, Pervitin itself did not disappear either. It stayed on the German market in some capacity, even after the war, before eventually being classified as a controlled substance. So, there you have it, the strange and largely forgotten story of how drugs quietly fueled one of the biggest conflicts in human history. If you found this as wild as I did, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because Trivia Tide drops new deep dives into forgotten history every single week. Drop a comment letting me know which part of this surprised you the most, whether it was Hitler's daily injections or the sheer number of pills the American military handed out. See you in the next video.